Tuesday, April 18th, Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, is a republic, which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this evening, we have some students in the audience that we would like to recognize. Serena, if you want.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're here to celebrate the following students. Mohammed Sek for participating in the New York State Mathletes Competition. Gloria Victoria Guerriere for participating in the Nike Indoor Nationals. Gloria placed 26th overall. Victoria placed 16th in the 400-meter championship division, which is a national event. And Mr. Darrell Hall also participated in Nike Indoor Nationals. He placed 8th in the triple jump competition.
I did.
All right. He placed 8th in the triple jump competition and 14th in the high jump.
Right. Is Jarrell here? Yep. Right there. If you're here, guys, come down when we call your name.
And then the following students participated in the annual Nassau All-County Art Exhibition, which I had the opportunity to see. It was on a Sunday, Saturday, and wonderful, wonderful project. Anasha Abur Rahman, Victoria Armagon, Ian Barriette, Dominic Ferguson, Hametz, and Akila, Hine. I'm doing that on purpose. Angelo Hughes, Matthew Mariani, Zelina Padilla, Alexa Rivera, Melinda Rodriguez. We'll take a group picture and then everyone, parents, if you want to take a picture, sneak on down, take a picture as well.
I'm gonna guess.
We can get around
Kids
the
are
walls.
down.
Team, you got it?
No, they are. They're okay, fans. Yeah, delete. Parents, I know each and every one of these children wants to stay here for the rest of the board meeting and listen to the budget presentation, but if you want to take them home to do homework, we would appreciate that as well. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you. It's about politics. I think by that.
Keep going away. Have a good one.
Thank you. Congratulations. We're gonna give them a half a second. Finish walking out.
Yeah.
Look at you hiding behind there. Okay, so with that, I need a motion to move dockets 2-312 through 2-315.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We have no report committees from PTA, PTSA, and SEPTA. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even get to see who's in the audience right now. Hold on one second. Do not see, if you're in the virtual audience and you're from PTA, PTSA, or SEPTA, can you raise your hand so I can see you, because I'm not seeing any representatives right now? Okay, so on behalf of the PTSA, they had a meeting last night, and I will advise that there are multiple board seats available on PTSA. If anybody is available and willing to take part or participate in that board, please contact Jennifer Johnson or any member of the PTSA board. You have to be a current paid member of PTSA to join the board for next year, so please just remember that. If you're not, please make sure that you're a paid member. On behalf of the PTA, I will state that their Kentucky Derby, I'm going to do this wrong, Kentucky Derby social event is May 11th. I believe that's the correct date. It's been posted on their social media accounts, and you can reach out to any PTA board member also to get tickets for that. Now, it's my understanding if you purchase tickets in advance, you get a free sheet of raffle tickets. So purchase your tickets in advance. They usually have some wonderful baskets to raffle up. If one of the representatives happens to pop on later, we'll just add them and let them speak. So we're going to move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Raymond.
Good evening. Thank you. First, I just want to share a letter I received from a resident. I'll read. You may think that only a few people read the West Hempstead Educator. Glad to know somebody reads it when we mail it out. I am happy to say I am one who does read it. There are so many uplifting stories in the spring 2023 edition. I felt overwhelmed to contact you to show my appreciation. While all the student stories are uplifting, the one that particularly caught my eye was the one about the student from El Salvador, coming from a shelter in first grade and now being proficient in fourth grade is truly a blessing, and all who helped along the way should be recognized and congratulated. I know you know it, and I know it, and I know it, and hopefully that student will know it. Will know it that you've changed that student's life for the better and for always. The education of the student is life-changing, especially when we think of how far they've come in just a few short years. Congratulations to all the teachers, Board of Education members, and district administrators for the work they do all year. That's the GW staff, so I want to make sure they were recognized for the work that they were doing, and also the Cornwall staff earlier. So the admin team, we spent time discussing the tenets of DDO, or deliberately developmental organization, which is a management philosophy that focuses on cultivating personal and organizational growth by intentionally creating opportunities for learning and development. At the heart of DDO are two concepts: radical truth and radical transparency. Radical truth involves creating a culture of honesty where we speak our minds and challenge assumptions without fear of retribution. Radical transparency involves sharing information widely and openly, including feedback on individual and organizational performance, which promotes learning and fosters a culture of accountability. These two concepts are closely linked, as radical truth enables radical transparency, which in turn reinforces radical truth. By embracing these principles, DDO creates an environment where people can learn, grow, and thrive, resulting in more effective organizations and happier, more staff. I mentioned this idea, as here we are again in the midst of budget season, and there are items that are being bandied about that are not 100% accurate. As a superintendent of West Hempstead, as a taxpayer in another district, and as a citizen of the United States of America, I have no issue with open, honest debate. What is old is the half-truths, the smile on your face, and the less than respectful behind your back, and the rigmarole in an attempt to sway thoughts and actions. What I ask each community member is to make an informed decision. Get the facts, ask questions. You're talking about all the school-age children in our West Hempstead community. When a community comes together as one, it has the potential to achieve great things. By pooling together resources, skills, and knowledge, a community can address issues that might be too big for individuals to tackle alone. A united community also creates a sense of belonging and support, which fosters a strong social fabric and improves well-being. Additionally, a united community can better represent its members' needs and interests, making it easier to advocate for change and improve the overall quality of life. Ultimately, coming together as one strengthens the bonds within a community and enables it to overcome challenges, grow, and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. We've reached the period for district residents or employees of the district to address the board. This individual will be limited to 3 minutes of non-confidential agenda items with an overall maximum of 20 minutes for this part of the meeting, should that be needed. If you have a question in the audience, whether you're virtual or in the public audience, please remember to identify yourself when you are called upon. If you're in the virtual audience and you have a question, please raise your virtual hand and we will ask you to unmute and ask your question. Do we have any questions at this time? Oh, God. Mr. Carruthers, you have a question? Can he unmute?
Yes, I hear you now. I'm Matt Carruthers. I'm the Teachers Education Association president. I really just have a comment. An email went out from Mr. Blas about his district activities update for Q1. The email was sent, what it says, to the community. My mother-in-law is a West Hempstead community for the last 50 years. She did not get this email. I was wondering, did this email go to everyone in the community or did it go to select people in the community? That was my statement.
I cannot answer that question. Mr. Blas, do you have an answer to that question?
Well, let me say this. We've done a lot of work to put together a list of as many emails as we have in the community. And people who've gotten my emails who don't want to get it anymore, of course, we took them off that list. But I have no way of knowing, and I would probably bet that there are members of the community that are not on that list, regrettably. And anybody who would like to join the list could certainly reach out to me, and I'd be happy to add them.
I don't know if that answered your question, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to add, maybe we can have his email or he can post it somewhere. So is it on the district webpage for all the other board members as well? So maybe we can add, I can have my mother-in-law added or anyone else in the community who wants to be added.
I don't know the email address. I will look to find out. This is the first I'm hearing about an email. So I will address that as well. If an email is being sent out from a board member, it should not be sent out on the behalf of board activities. But we will discuss that off the table.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to do it the right way, whatever the right way is.
All right, so Mr. Carruthers, we will get you the email or get your mother-in-law added to whatever email it is, if it's something that should be sent out. If you want to give us that information or email it to Mr. Blas at the school district email.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No email, done by the Board of Education.
Yeah, no, this is not an email that we have seen, nor is it sponsored by the board, nor should it speak for the Board of Education. Just to make that clear to anybody who has received it. Individual board members do not speak for the Board of Education. And we'll just talk about it when we get off the table. Do we have other questions from the audience at this time? Matt, you could put your hand down, sorry. Or you could leave it up and I'll call on you again. No questions from this audience. Mr. Lazar?
Is this for questions on the budget right now?
Mr. Press is going to do the budget presentation, and then that was my fault. I should have had him do it first. I apologize.
Right.
So if there's no other questions, we're going to have Mr. Press go ahead with the budget presentation for this evening. Yeah, I'm sure I want him to go now. That was your part. You were supposed to tell him. After the superintendent. Thank you.
All right, good. Is this one?
Everything
This
is
is
working.
working. Everything's working. Great. All right. This is, well, we've done some PTA presentations, so I lose track of how many I have done. This is, the board is set to adopt the budget tonight, so we are going to, again, present our budget that the administration has come up with. There have been some changes since the last presentation, and I'll explain what those changes are as we go through the presentation. So some of the numbers that we have presented in the past have changed. So this is our new proposed budget, $74.1 million. It's a reduction of just over $200,000. So the increase before, which was about 3.2 million, is now 2.989. And what was a 4.5% spending increase is now 4.2%. What happened this afternoon was our NYSHIP, our insurance company, they had a webinar. They sent out invitations to the webinar, but didn't explain what it was going to be about. We were not able to attend. There's another session next week that we are signed up to attend. But I had reached out to some of my colleagues who were able to attend, and what they said was that NYSHIP is reducing their medical insurance premiums effective July 1 of this year by about 2.7%. I haven't seen that before. I don't know if those who have been around longer have seen a mid-year reduction or just a mid-year change in the premiums, but we're happy to see it. And so that reduction for us amounts to about just over $200,000. So what we were able to do was reduce the budget by $200,000, just over $200,000. And
2 hours. What we did in 2 hours.
yeah, that was, I found that out about 5 o'clock this afternoon. Okay. And so what we were able to do with that was now to reduce what was the proposed 2.43% levy increase down to 1.99%, which is actually below the district's cap of 2.43%. That was the cap. That is still the cap, but we're able to reduce below that. What that means now for it's approximately the average single-family homeowner in West Hempstead, the increase would amount to about $155 per year, or about 43 cents a day, based on current information that we have on assessed values. Any questions about any of that? I know I wasn't expecting to present this, but it is a little bit of a happy circumstance. Any questions?
So just to understand, I mean, I know that this all happened after 5 PM today. But we're confident in the fact that this reduction is happening and we can utilize this savings.
Yes. Yeah, I got copies of the slides from the presentation today because initially it was an email, it was another email, then it was copies of the slides from the actual presentation. So very confident that the reduction is going to happen, and that we can, this reduction in the budget and in the tax levy is responsible.
So when they put out the information regarding the 2 different webinars, went out to the entire state of New York. So they're pulling back at this point. So it seems high likelihood that this is going to occur.
I just have a quick question. Correct me if I'm wrong. For next year's budget, we were estimating increases in health insurance. So is this a reduction in the estimate or actual expenses?
It's a reduction in the estimate
And
because
yes,
we don't know what the
so
increase is going to be in 2024.
We were budgeting for 12%. Now at the 2.7 is 9.3 or 9.
Well, no, I'm still budgeting for a 12% increase, but on top of what is effectively around a 12% increase now, because we had seen in 2023, the increase was about 15%. So with this reduction of 2.7%, that's down to about 12%. So I'm building the 12% on these reduced numbers as of July 1. Okay, any other question? All right. So this is a revised slide in terms of our levy as in comparison to some of the surrounding districts. It's the same districts that were on the slide previously, just now with our reduced tax levy of 1.99%. Revenue projections, only change here again is the reduction in the tax levy, and the overall budget obviously has been reduced as well. Again, we're budgeting for state aid increase of about 1.8 million. And some other increases in there in terms of our interest income because interest rates have gone up quite a bit. Most of the other numbers here are the same and they have not changed since the previous presentations. Again, foundation aid, nothing has changed here because our foundation aid has not changed. The state still, to my knowledge, does not have a budget. So we are going with our projections based on the governor's proposed budget. But everything that I'm reading and hearing is that the state aid to schools is really not part of the conversation very much up there in terms of giving schools more money. I don't know if anyone has heard anything different. I have not. So we're expecting to receive the foundation aid that the governor has proposed. But again, we're down at the bottom of the list in terms of our increase in foundation aid. Here's our proposed expenditures for the year. Again, representing the change that we talked about, the reduction in the health insurance by about 200,000 or so, just over 200,000. And again, here, this is changed. The medical insurance premium was about $1.2 million budgeted increase previously. Everything else on this slide is the same. We're looking at increases in special ed, in our facilities budget, and in transportation going into next year. Again, putting this up there just so that it remains part of the conversation. In 21-22, expenses that were not related to in-district instruction or education represented about 18% of our budget. That's expenses for charter school tuition, for expenses related to the Gersh Academy, Hank West Hempstead, transportation, special ed out of district, and textbooks and things like that. So it's about $12 million out of the 21-22 budget was spent on expenses for students not attending school in West Hempstead Public Schools. So I think it's an important fact to put out there. Again, we're looking to add 2 full-time 1-to-1 aides at the secondary school to support our special ed students. And we're looking at a 2.6 FTE reduction in staff at the secondary school. We had a couple of retirements that we are not going to fill, and some reduction in FTE for another member of the teaching staff there. Facilities, we have a lot on tap for 23-24. We're doing a lot of security work. Those who have been in the building here may have seen the additional cameras going in and security items throughout the building here. We've got new wireless door locks, which we will continue to work to install throughout the district, and additional more security systems. We've got unit ventilator replacement supposed to happen here. That will happen here. I'm sorry, I'm going to be positive about it. Starting in June at the secondary school through stimulus funding and some projects that we're funded through previous year's budget. We're right now looking to work on the exterior wall here at the secondary school, the south building as well, and as well as ongoing service and maintenance of our facilities that are aging, and every day, or not every day, Mr. Mayor, every week, we find something new that has reached the end of its useful life. What, was I not supposed to say that? All right. Additionally, the budget and some other funding sources are helping to continue some of the initiatives that we have implemented over the last few years. We just launched the program related to our 21st Century Learning Grant, off to a rousing success. Yes,
Day two.
Dr. Minicozy says yes. Today's day 2.
Saw some activities going on today.
Yeah, excellent. Additionally, some of the other initiatives listed here will continue and will be supported through the budget, as well as, we will continue to offer college credit for courses here in West Hempstead. We want to expand our research program or continue expanding that, the seals of biliteracy and civic readiness, phys ed standards. We're continuing rolling those out, as well as building pathways in humanities, STEM, and the arts. Some of the things coming down the pike that we're looking to implement, there's some new arts standards and digital literacy standards coming down from the state that we will be rolling out, as well as a CTE program in the culinary arts, all of this supported through the budget, as well as new courses. I thought I had pictures in here. They seem to have vanished, but there were very nice pictures of our students in here. So just imagine, and Mr. Hamilton as well, but don't tell him that. So new courses at the secondary school. These are courses that were selected by the students. So they had some agency in their educational program. In addition, we're continuing partnerships with organizations locally and throughout the state to provide our students with opportunities to explore various different fields. Our NYU Lanco and Envision Scholar Program. We have Nassau Community College, where our seniors can attend Nassau Community College on their campus and earn credits there and credits also here toward graduation. Our students continue to amaze and astound on the stage here in the Caribbean, upstate, and throughout the country. And we've got Kiddo Hackathon winners. We've got mathletes, which is near and dear to my heart, and scholar athletes, which I was not an athlete. I was a scholar. Didn't have music scholars, maybe. Not so much this year. Anyway, go mathletes. Previous presentations are available up on the district website. There are none of my jokes available on the website, although unfortunately this is being recorded, so.
Comedy club or something?
I'm working on my stand-up.
We all see that.
No, I should stick to my day job. I will. Thank you. Our next presentation will be the budget hearing on Tuesday, May 2nd. The all-important budget vote is Tuesday, May 16th. Very important. Write that in your calendars, please. Tell your neighbors and your friends. And what I've been kind of adding in there as well is if you have neighbors and friends that have moved here from the city, which does seem to happen a lot, just let them know, because in the city they don't vote on the budget, so they may not know that they can and should vote on the budget, but they have to register. So let them know they have the date of the vote. Let them know they have to register. They can come see Ms. Bryant if they have registered to vote in the general elections, then they are registered to vote here. But Tuesday, May 16th, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., the North Gymnasium here in the secondary school. And I just want to kind of round the circle on what Mr. Riemann was saying about us being one community, because I think it's important to point this out. My slide earlier talked about 18% of the budget went to fund students who do not attend the public schools here. We do that happily. Every student in West Hempstead is one of our students, not just the approximately 1,600 kids here that attend the public schools, but the approximately 1,400 that attend schools outside of the district, in non-public schools. We have 175 kids approximately at Gersh Academy that we support. It's about 300 kids at Hank West Hempstead that we are supporting. The 30 or so kids that attend BOCES full-time out of district. We've got over 20 kids attending charter schools out of district. So this budget does not only fund the West Hempstead Public Schools. I think it's very important to note that. We are one community, all of our students here, whether or not they attend schools, public schools in West Hempstead. So I'd like to just keep that in mind. With that, I'll just open the floor to any additional questions that anyone may have.
I think that I mean, I don't know if anybody else at the table have questions. I think I've asked my questions, about everything in this presentation in the last 6 times I've seen it. Other than the fact that my question would have been, are you comfortable and are we being fiscally responsible by taking this reduction, prior to adopting the budget? But if you're saying that all those factors were valid today and it went out to the entire state, then I think that we're pretty safe that we can go ahead and do that and feel comfortable about doing so. Do we have any other questions from the board?
A couple of questions. One relatively minor, but just because I went through the budget with a fine tooth comb. I noticed that on UPK, we have what appears to be a loss budget of about $19,000, or is that just the expense side and I'm not seeing the revenues? So how does that happen with a government-sponsored program?
So the government-sponsored programs, they give us a certain amount per student. So right now we get $5,400 per student. We have Scope running the program for us. Right now, Scope is charging us $5,400 per student. They have told us they're going to increase their rates going into next year. So we're still going to get the same amount of revenue per student, but our expense is going to be higher.
Oh, so until now it was at least balanced, or we were
Yes.
making money?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there some point that I know we had bid it out at one point, who's going to provide the service? Is there some point where we then go out and rebid it now that we see that we're losing money on it?
I mean, we could, but honestly, I don't know that we're going to get anyone to do it for less than Scope charges us. If we were to do it ourselves with our own staff members, we pay a lot.
We're not really
More.
losing money. We're just subsidizing the program. It's not like we're losing money
Well-
on it. We're just subsidizing it for the children of the
Right.
district. And that's what comes first, the children of the district.
Well, the question is, if we're,
Not losing.
the budget is constrained, why would we take on losing projects? As nice as it is, I mean, we have to still justify it to the ratepayers that, that's something we should be doing.
Because the parents and in my opinion, the parents and the community have asked for it. It's something that is important to them that they want. Unfortunately, because of a state-funded program, years ago when we looked into this, because this is a state-funded program, and I do know that the legislators and whatnot are advocating for the state to put more money into the program so that districts don't have to, give in money towards it. But when we went out, we were advised, we can't ask for money from the community as far as tuition. We can't get tuition base for this because the state is funding it. So it would be on the district to provide it.
Right. Okay, I'll move on. Next question. There's another question, not raised by me, but that's sort of question that has been addressed, but so significant that I thought I'd want to bring it up again. And that is we look at the utility budgets as we go from current year 23 budget to the 24 budget. Seems like it appears the numbers are growing by 60% from year to year. Could that be right? I think we're going from somewhere like 600,000 to 943,000 year to year.
So it's the 60% increase year to year is from a budgetary standpoint. And I haven't looked at that number to do that calculation, but
Yeah.
the numbers are increasing. The reality is our budgeted numbers for this year are well below our actual expenses. So the budgeted number for next year is the increase to what we're seeing this year, and then what we expect to see potentially for next year. So our expenses this year are coming in well over budget. We've had fuel expenses that have more than tripled at certain points. Usage has increased, rates have increased. In one case, we had, I guess we had a bit of a sweet deal for a while. We had an electric meter that was running a little slow. That got replaced when we upgraded electric. Now it's running accurately, and so those expenses are going up as well. So, we're not going up year to year 60%. It's over a 2-year period that we're seeing.
So you're predicting that this year we'll have a significant we'll have expended significantly more than the budgets.
Yes.
For utilities. Okay.
I'm not predicting it. It's happened.
Well,
Just had a
your year's
meeting.
not over. Hopefully we got a break along the way. Then, yeah.
Well,
But, yeah.
Wait, so can I want to just piggyback off of what you just asked, so I can understand. So just to make me understand the answer that you had given Mr. Glass, basically we're budgeting to meet what we're actually spending this year plus the increase.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
And how much is that increase above this year? Above this year's actual experience?
I don't have those numbers with me. I know I was just sitting with Mr. Mayo this afternoon, trying to figure out how we were going to cover all of the electric expenses that are coming in higher. And fuel, we've already moved money into the fuel codes from other codes just to cover the increase. One of our buildings, Cornwall Avenue, their first oil delivery blew through the entire budget that we had for the year. So if that's any indication of what was going on sort of in the market.
Okay, so for me, this is a significant question, but we could move on.
Okay.
I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page about UPK. Every seat's available to any school-age child in our community. There is a lotto system that we do. If there are more students than there are seats, and we do still have seats available, that's number one. Just to talk a little bit about need for UPK, let's keep in mind that the research shows that students who go to UPK tend to not need as many services as we move down the line. Students who attend UPK and full-time kindergarten tend to be more successful. I'll use that term loosely in school, and it gives them a better opportunity to be where we want them to be by the end of 3rd grade. So you cannot just look at a $19,000 number or any number as it might relate this year, because that number would change each year anyway. But let's keep in mind the bigger picture and the longer term costs that will be associated with students who might come to our program later. Even though Scope is running our program currently, it doesn't even matter who's running the program. This group of teachers works very closely with our staff and our interim principal, Dr. Minacosi, and our former principal to ensure the philosophies aligned, to ensure they're making progress where they need to be. I know Ms. Karras and Ms. Scolo just recently spent some time with Dr. Minacosi doing some meetings. That's considered CPSE still. Yeah, so be CPSE meetings. So students who might be in need of services, we can make sure we're all cognizant of what the needs are and how we can eliminate those over time so that the students can be successful. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page of what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And I'll go out with the pom-poms. I'm sorry.
To follow, I'm sorry. To follow up, then if we have surplus spots, are they available to be shared with other providers within the community? Or is it, however many we can fill, that's the end of the story?
Well, we have. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we have funding for more seats than we can accommodate here, we can share that with the providers in the community.
Over the 90 we can accommodate.
Yeah.
Over the nine, but how many are we accommodating as we speak?
That, I'm not sure what's,
Our program is available to provide seats for 90 people.
Right.
If the state gives us more than 90 seats, it can go out to any other provider in the community.
So if we have less than a 90, we can't allocate out those seats.
No, because we have to have, the state doesn't allow us to give them out and take them back, and they have to be allocated for the kids for the following year. Okay. So we're gonna move on to, I need a motion to move dockets docket. Well, we're gonna go back to those questions. When we get to that period. I need a motion to move docket 2-316. Any question? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, we have two appointments this evening. First, Lisa Marie Fellows being recommended to fill the special ed teaching position at George Washington during Ms. Ruffalo's leave of absence. She has been substituting for the district since November. She earned a bachelor's degree from Queens College and a master's degree from Toro. And she's been recommended to fill the position by Ms. Noddy, Ms. Riley, and me. And I believe on the, I think on the screen, we have Ms. Michelle Adonisio, who's being recommended to fill the school psychologist position at Cornwall Avenue. Ms. Adonisio earned her bachelor's degree and master's degree from Adelphi University. Pretty close to having the right colors. Exactly. But more importantly, the reason why I bring that up, she is a graduate of, anyone? West Hempstead High School. She's a Ram, and she's presently doing her internship in Mineola. She's being recommended for this position by Ms. Anito, Ms. Karas, Ms. Riley, and me. Congratulations, thanks, Shelley.
Congratulations to both of you. I need a docket to move 2-317, a motion to move docket 2-317. Yeah, I'm having a really hard time today.
Almost. Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Bert,
Yeah, sorry.
motion passes. I'm tabling docket 2-318 for a later time. I need a motion to move docket 2-319. So move.
Second.
Who's the second? Right. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. I'm sorry? Oh, you posted it as, I apologize. I need a motion to, I didn't realize she posted it as the old budget. You're right. That would have made sense. I need a motion to move docket 2-319 as amended. So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes as amended. Thank you, Teresa. I need a motion to move docket 2-320 through 2-332.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Oh, you're killing my kids.
I think we have what? We voted on
You're
that?
killing me.
You had a property tax report.
Okay.
I'll be right.
So let's just start this whole thing over again.
Oh, sorry, Karen. Karen, my computer was out when you voted on the budgets. So
Okay.
is it too late?
First, you do what?
There was a vote. Yes. It's too late.
So it's too late.
Okay.
Too late to do what? Change the vote.
Change vote.
Okay, so
Vote how I.
we need to go back, we need to go back to the ones we just voted on to amend docket 2-322. That's the property tax report card, which is the same issue. It needs to be amended to the 1.99 number. So I need a motion to move 2-322 as amended.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion to move dockets 2-333 through 2-339.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye, motion passes. We have no old business, new business. I need a motion to move docket 2-340 through 2-343. Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye, Bert, are you,
I'm sorry, I don't have a computer, so it's hard for me to follow what's going on.
do you have an agenda in front of you?
No.
Can we give him an agenda so that I can make sure that he's reading it?
Right?
So it's 2-340 through 2-343. It's the last four dockets. I just need your vote.
Yep.
Motion passes. No board privilege of the floor at this time. Future meeting dates are on the back of the agenda. And we've now reached the period for district residents or employees of the district to address the board. This individual will be limited to 3 minutes of non-confidential agenda items with an overall maximum of 20 minutes for this part of the meeting, should that be needed. Please, again, remember to raise your hands, virtual or otherwise. And if I call on you in the virtual audience, please unmute yourself. In the public audience, please just remember to identify yourself. Mr. Lazar, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you for the budget. Mr. President. I had a bunch of questions, but I guess you've already voted on it. That's the one I asked. One question is if they're reducing by 2.7% this year already, can some of that money be used towards some of the utility budget short, and then we don't have to add that into this coming year's budget?
The reduction is effective July 1st, which is after the end of our current fiscal year.
Okay, so fiscal year ends
June
July
30th.
June 30th.
Yep.
Okay, so that's one question. Second one is, which I had asked last time we were meeting, unemployment. You have it budgeted at 75,000. Over the past 6 years, I believe, we've budgeted $637,000 towards unemployment, but spent $47,000 over that time period. We need to budget 75,000, get the taxpayers to pay that money when we put together a reserve fund of also 517,000. Shouldn't we have it as a lower amount that we're taxing people for, and then use the reserve fund in case that emergency that we have to lay off, fire a whole bunch of people? Just as a way to understand, although it's only 43 cents a day for some of us, some people 43 cents a day is a lot of money. Is that something we can consider, or is it too late for it's already been voted on?
And the budget's been voted on. It's, certainly something we can consider going forward.
Next question that I have is I was looking at the tax anticipation notes. And I understand that we have one of the highest ratings for it from my perspective of it's a highly rated bond that everyone wants. Am I right? We've done a great job of our credit rating.
We do have a good credit rating.
Right. So
That's because we have healthy reserves.
right, which is good.
Yeah.
The question is, can we buy our own bonds, and the 128,000 that we are reserved, that the reserves use to buy our bonds because they invest in things. And that 128,000 gets cycled back, so we do not have to spend 128,000. It could be revenue on one end and expense on the other end. Again, allowing the taxpayers to reduce the amount of money they have to spend in order to help the budget, but keep all the services in place.
That is not something that we are allowed to do. There's conversation up in Albany to allow school districts to do that instead of, like you're saying, paying a bank that interest, borrowing the money, essentially our restricted reserve funds, and then repaying those reserves with interest that would come back to us. But it's not anything that's allowed at the moment.
And the other question is, and I know that it's not something so easy to do, it takes some time and effort. That's something I brought up also at the last meeting, that there are a lot of large CDs that we can get for 12 to 18 months, where it's about 5% interest. Now, the 10 million in reserves, I understand it would require about maybe 40 of those CDs to be taken out that is fully FDIC insured. So we don't have to worry about any banks going bankrupt. But that would give us 500,000 in interest as opposed to 250,000. That's something that we could potentially consider again to help reduce the effect on people's taxes.
So there's restrictions on how we can invest our money in that sense. We can't just go down to, Dime Bank and open up a CD. Most of the banks, because we're a municipality or the equivalent of government organization, all of our funds have to be fully collateralized, 100%. So we're not at risk of losing any of our money. We have a lot more money than the FDIC insurance level, but we're more than 100% collateralized at the moment. So that's a bit of a burden on banks. Banks don't really like to deal so much with municipalities because of that burden. For the average person, the bank doesn't have to be 100% collateralized. 250,000 of FDIC insurance. If you have more than that, you're potentially out of luck if the bank goes under. But we have to be fully 100% collateralized. So it's a little more complicated. We can't just go down to JP Morgan and just open up 40 different certificates of deposit. We are getting good interest rates at the moment, both from our main bank and the banks that we moved some of our invested funds into. We're getting good interest rates, but we're not able to take advantage of the marketplace like an individual.
Last question was a big concern that I had at the last meeting. We talked about the revenues from 2020, 2021, and it was below. I put in a FOIL request on March 20th that I was hoping that I would be able to see by now. Did that money just come in later than those dates, or did we not get it? And if we didn't get it, why did we anticipate almost $1 million more than we got in revenue?
So we addressed this last year when we talked about in June of last year, we talked about it. Some of it is state aid. When we do our projections, it's based on the projections from state aid that's projected in the adopted budget. Those are estimates. So sometimes the aid that we receive comes in less than that. Part of that was we had budgeted building aid for projects that we thought were going to be completed in that fiscal year that were not completed. So we didn't start earning building aid in that fiscal year. So it's a combination. We also budgeted more interest income. At that point, interest income came in less. So it's a combination. It's a number of different factors, but the bulk of that was building aid.
So most of it did eventually come. We just didn't get it at that time.
Well, I mean, the building aid, we started receiving it this year. We can't book it. If we were going to earn the income from an accounting standpoint in 21, 22, we would have booked the revenue. Even if we would have booked the receivable, which was essentially the same thing as showing the revenue in last year. But we didn't, because we didn't close out the projects until this year, generate the building until this year.
That's fine. I just care that we have the money eventually. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just pushed off. It's not, we didn't lose it. It just got pushed off.
All right. So we have it. We can put in reserves and wherever it's going to go.
Okay, I see two hands raised in the virtual audience. So Mr. Zelig, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. We were talking about UPK. I know there were a bunch of questions before. How long is the contract? And I guess it makes sense how it was set up, but how long is the contract for?
Essentially it's a 1-year contract with options to renew.
Okay, and renew for how long? Like how?
I think when we did the RFP, I think we allowed for up to 4 renewals. Yeah.
Sorry, did you say time? Sorry, cut out.
Yeah, the RFP that we did allowed for up to 4 renewals.
Okay, so I guess 5 years. So would that be for the next 4 years? We'll get in less than we'll have to spend by $20,000 per year, $19,000, whatever it is.
depends on, I'm sorry.
No,
It truly depends on how the state budget comes out, because I can advise you that many agencies, ourselves included, Nassau Suffolk School Boards, New York State School Boards are all advocating, and many of the local legislators as well are all advocating for the funding to be increased for universal pre-K.
Okay, so that would be more spots, but in terms of like on a,
No, not necessarily more spots, but to cover the money that, you know, these people are charging or that you have to pay. It's just more funding for the program.
yeah, no, I think it's important. That's great. So what I was more curious, Scope is an outside provider. I know there are a lot of local providers, you know, ABC Daycare, Deborah Freed, Hebrew Academy, Nassau County, Light Angel, Day Corp. There's like 15, you know, that I saw. It would be great to open it up to community providers as well. For them to participate.
You have to by protocol, by policy with UPK, you have to open it up to.
Can't make some response.
Right. So is it possible? I know it was mentioned before. Is it possible to rebid, and what would the process be? Maybe one of them will be willing to do it for less.
I mean, the process would be the same as it was before. We just go out with another RFP, which we did before, and we reached out to the local organization as well, so they did have an opportunity to respond.
Okay. Is it possible to do another RFP to see if there's additional interest for other providers, or being that it's you know, we're taking in less than we're
Next year already. I believe that we're contracted for next year already, but moving forward, we go out again.
okay. And then in terms of the enrollment study, I know it's been raised a bunch of times. I know it was being considered. Is there an update as in terms of a long range enrollment study? I know the last one's from 2012.
I know that there was conversation with BOCES in regard, right? Was in regard to doing the study. I don't have a date, so I can't answer that at this time.
Cost of that we share.
No, the cost of the enrollment study was in the budget for next year. So completion of the study, I don't have a date for.
Oh, so it was included in this budget for this coming year?
Yes.
Yes, we mentioned that previous budget.
Okay, sorry, I missed it. And then the last point. So I know while acknowledging, I did send over an email related to. I know we spoke about the reserves in the last meeting. My points were valid, and it's possible to reduce the budget. The response to my question from the email from March 29th, I did get it this afternoon. I didn't have a lot of time to review, but it didn't really answer. You know, I think if you wanted to try to lower the budget, it could have, based on what I sent, it could have been, there's room, and I think to take, I see it's a little lower, but almost the max increase again, due to, you know, this is tough on the taxpayer. That's why we're agitating for a change. And then in terms of fiscal prudence, I think that would be to not raise the budget like many other districts chose to do this year. Just all not to mention, as enrollment declines, we don't see a concerted effort to right size the staffing necessary, which would take some pressure off the expense side. So just wanted to make that comment. If you want to comment on it, feel free, but just wanted to raise that.
I believe that your statement about right sizing the staffing is a little skewed. Again, it's just not an accurate statement. And as far as I did see the email that the response to your email as well, about being fiscally prudent and about doing what is going to be proper for this district. My issue continues to be, and I think it's the issue of many of us here, that we keep saying about not increasing the budget, not increasing the budget, not increasing the budget. And the board itself had a conversation about this, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or whenever we were together, in that it's not responsible for us to drop the budget to a level where next year we would have to come back and ask for double the amount, because then we find out that we can't compensate for it or we can't make up the difference. this is the problem we're having now when it comes to the utilities. So it truly isn't, fiscally responsible on behalf of the entire community to come back and then ask people to make up that difference, which we've done in the past when the district has gone out twice with 0 or less than 0. And the following year, we had to go out with 9 point something, which obviously failed because nobody was going to pass a 9 point something budget. And the majority of us, some of the people on this virtual meeting, some of the people in this room stood outside and advocated for passing the second budget after it failed. We would not have been in that position had we not dropped the budget so low that we didn't have any more money to in reserves to supplant into the budget. So, I understand where you're coming from. We all sit in the same seat when it comes to budgeting for our households and being affected by it. But I just think that when we're talking about enrollment and talking about the staffing, the statement is just not 100% accurate.
Okay, just one follow-up to that,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Were the reserves at the same level when that happened, when you had to increase, or you were asking for
They've been down because we were at a steady reserve level, because we were at a sturdy level. The district at the time felt that it was a good idea to return some of that money into the budget, and they returned quite a bit of the money into the budget, and therefore fell quite short in the years coming after that. And that's when we had to go out with a very large number. And I would rather go out with a level number and a more palatable number every year if we had to, because that's fiscally responsible, than it is to come back next year and ask people for 4 and 5%.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just see the 7 million in reserves, of which we're using 865. So I think some of that could be transferred to reduce the amount. I'll just leave it at that.
Mr. Fulop, do you want to unmute yourself? I'm assuming that you actually
Yes,
just
yes,
mic
yes,
out.
Yeah, so thank you very much for letting me speak. Thank you, Mr. Press, for the presentation. To follow up on the email that I sent, that that Mr. Blatz had questioned, heat, light, and power expenses. So I know that we said in this presentation that heat, light, and power expenses have gone up astronomically, and I'm trying to understand that, because I'd asked, I sent an email to Teresa asking for all expenses as of 2/28/2023. So that'd be 8 full months of the school year. As of 2/28/2023, on heat, light, and power, we had spent $385,000 roughly of the $598,000 budget. So one is that, like, we're under budget. We haven't reached our entire full year budget, which I thought that we had said earlier. But like, if you want to multiply 598 times 2/3, because we finished 2/3 of the year, that would be about 400,000. So it seems like we're actually a little bit under, even if we wanted to go on a run rate basis of where we would be at 2/3 of the year. So is there an inaccuracy in what we've, I guess, reported for the 2/28/2023 heat, light, and power expenses? Because something doesn't seem to be adding up.
Yeah, I mean, I know what we sent you because I sent you that report. I also know that I sat with Mr. Mayo and his assistant today, trying to find money to cover the expenses that we have coming in. So part of it, what you're seeing is we haven't paid all the expense by the 2/28 timeline of your request. We had not paid all of the expenses. So we don't get billed for February by February 28th. We get billed.
No, but my assumption is that we get billed on a monthly basis. Is that accurate, or is that not?
That is accurate, but we didn't get billed for February as of February 28th. We got billed for February in March. March is still part of the heating season. So I'm telling you, I would be happy to have you come in and sit down and look at the invoices and the expenditures.
I understand. I'm just trying to understand and justify in my mind the increase from 598,000 to 943,000, when it seems like right now we're basically a little under our tracking budget, right? So let's say we were at 420,000 now, right? So that our budget increased, 40,000 in the month. Or let's say we were 500,000 even, right? If we were at 500,000 after 8 full months of the year, right? That's still is not going to be saying that, oh, okay, we should be increasing expenses by 60% when we were 20% above what we had projected. And also in my email to you, I think I had linked to the article saying that the government is projecting a decrease in heat, light, and power expenses next year of about 30%. So yeah. So I'm just trying to understand.
Mr. Philip, I think I appreciate the comments, first questions. I think at this point, though, it's best if you come in. So Press and I will make ourselves available at any point in time during the day. Because if there's obviously a
I understand. Unfortunately, I can't make it in during the day.
So, seconds. I think there's some misunderstanding that we could probably clarify if we all sat in the same room. To say that anything that Mr. Press has reported as inaccurate would tarnish the work.
I'm not trying to say anything's inaccurate. I'm trying to understand.
Can you just let one person speak at a time?
And so I don't think you have the full picture, because another piece of it is if we have to transfer money from one code to another code to cover the cost, that might not show up in a timely fashion either. So we wouldn't budget what we need for utilities if we truly didn't think that it was necessary. And just as a side note, this is just Dan Reman now. I went to fill up my car and gas is at 340 and it was at 309 not too long ago. So I'm not sure where we're going to end up. I'm not saying it's going up or down. I'm not going to predict, but this is my point of saying that this is the part of the problem with budgeting starting in November. This is part of the problem with budgeting when we still don't have a budget from New York State. This is a part of the problem with budgeting when we have to make estimates. We're not guessing, throwing darts. Mr. Press does a ton, and the business office does a ton of work looking at year over year and years past and what's going on currently. Inflation's still at what?
2%.
Right. So to say that it just miraculously is going to change, I don't know. I don't trust the Fed right now. They're saying they're not going to raise interest rate anymore. So what does that do? What happens to that? That's going to have a domino effect. We don't know where this is going to end up, and we still have to put oil in the tank come next October. So that's our concern. So I didn't say. I just want to be clear. I was not making an accusation that you said anything inappropriate towards Mr. Press or anything we do here, but I think it's best, and we will make ourselves available to you at any point in time. I just want to be perfectly clear so everyone hears me. The day, the time, whatever you need, we'll make ourselves available. And we can continue this conversation. I think maybe sitting together might help that. Thank you.
And I appreciate all those comments. And I'm not accusing anybody of saying anything inaccurate or malicious or anything. I'm just trying to understand because, like we've brought up in the past meeting, those expenses are increasing astronomically, right? And that was said by you guys in the last meeting. So I'm trying to understand why they're going up so much. Just for one, my sake, and for two is for the residents of the community. I really, last year it was unfortunate that there was a big fight over the budget, and we really didn't want to impact the students at all. And thankfully they weren't negatively impacted at all. And the heat, light, and power is not something that really is going to negatively impact students. So I'm just trying to understand why it's going up.
I think only because I am completely this person. I'm a visual person. I need to see it in front of me. So I feel like going, just having a conversation over the phone, which is what it seems like to me, feels like to me, only because you're not in front of them. I do think that it probably is best if you try to make arrangements to see Mr. Press or Mr. Reman or both, and actually see the paperwork in front of you. It might be a better way to understand more of what's happening. It certainly is something that I would normally do because I do, that's how I manage to get past. I do have to move on. There's people in this live audience that have questions, so I just want to move on to them. Mrs. Day, you had a question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for your tenacity, because I know that budget planning is never easy. And thank you for, what you have provided us with as residents. I did want to discuss the transportation related expenses a little bit. I believe I did bring this, to the attention of the board and Mr. Raymond a few meetings ago. I know that there is a large portion of the $5.1 million budget that we have set up that goes to busing students outside of our district. But they still are residents of our community. And when we talk as one, we have to consider them, whether they decide they want to send their kids to in-district schools or out-district schools is up to the parent. However, I also do think that we need to think of equity and in terms of when we provide busing for not only sports, but programs. And one of those programs and initiatives that is academic based that our district offers is the STEP program, which offers a lot of enrichment opportunities for students within our district, which will actually positively reflect our district with students going to these programs. Currently, our district does not provide busing for these students to the Delphi program on Saturdays. They also have tutoring services during the week that it's on parents to take the kids to for, of course, their own academic benefit, but also for the benefit of our district in terms of numbers and student performance. So there are a lot of other districts, surrounding districts, nearby districts that do offer busing for their STEP students. And we are excluded from that. I'm not sure why, but that is definitely something that I would like to bring to the attention of the board and Mr. Raymond and our, academic curricular staff. If that is something that we can consider, I'm not sure whether or not it is being considered in the $350,000 budget increase that is anticipated on this slide for the 2023-2024 year. That was the first part that I wanted to address, and then I don't know if you guys want to respond, and I'll do the second.
What I can say is, and correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe legal counsel as well can correct me if I'm wrong. It's been my understanding over the numerous years we've been doing this, if we provide transportation like that to that program, then we have to provide transportation to all those programs, including out-of-district programs, which we certainly could not afford to do so. I'm correct, which is why we don't provide late buses to the private schools and or to our public schools, because if we provide a late bus here, we have to provide late buses to all the private schools. It's just an increased cost that we wouldn't be able to do.
I'm not kind of sort of understanding that because, for example, we have a $5.1 million budget in our district. And I'm not sure if the STEP program is open to those who are going to private school, charter, or public school, or if it's just open to those who go to public schools. But if we are only using up not even 1 million of that budget towards busing our kids to school, I'm not sure why it wouldn't be something that could be considered. We have buses that go to soccer programs on the weekend. We have buses that go to extracurricular activities. We have buses that go to field trips. So I'm not sure what legislatively would state that legally we cannot do that, because as I said, there are other surrounding districts that are doing it. So they would have to take the same things into account. That
Right,
we're
but they
taking
might own
into
their own
account.
buses, and that might be a very different circumstance. When you're talking about sports that, like school sports, that's considered part of district activity, school day function, school district.
But it's after the
activity.
school day.
But like we do Envision Scholars Program with Winthrop. We do not bus the children to the Envision Scholars Program, because if we provide that service to Envision Scholars, we would have to provide it to STEP, and we would have to provide it to whatever the next opportunity is, but those are not school district run events. I don't know if I said that right, but that accurate?
What do you mean that they're not school district?
So like the Adelphi Step program is a program that is not run by West Hempstead School District. It's a program through Adelphi.
But it's in partnership with them, right?
They just provide us the information to allow our children to go, or Baldwin's children's to go, or Freeport's children to go. It's not a program that we run through with Adelphi. Adelphi runs that program.
We
Am I-
offer it to our students. So are the kids who?
We
okay.
give flyers out.
Okay, so really quick, so are the kids who attend the Nassau Community College program that we partner with them for the upper level collegiate courses that they take, are they bused to Nassau Community College? Because that's not something that,
That's school district and school day. They're getting credit for West Hempstead School District classes.
okay.
Yeah.
But we bust them there, but we don't run that program, but we still bust.
But
them
it is-
because we're
But that, it's a different kind of, it is, I don't know how to explain it better.
NASA so when our eligible seniors who go there, they acquire high school credits because technically they're still, that would be considered part of the school day.
It's not the same as like Envision Scholars, which is a program that I'm gonna use that instead of STEP program. Envision Scholars, which is a program through Winthrop, is a program that they offer to our students, but it is not something that our students earn credit from the district for. I don't know if that explains it
Well,
better.
I'm not even familiar with the Envision.
It's
Scholars
similar to
program and
STEP, like
what
you
they
said.
offer for the students. I mean, the STEP program, I'm familiar because I have a child who is in the STEP program. And it also is offered on the weekend, which makes it difficult if you have other children that are doing activities to have to swing back, drop them off, come pick them up during the time. But how about okay, I'll discuss that a little bit more with you guys from private note. But the UPK program, is it typical of schools provide busing from K through 12 and not the UPK program?
Yes,
Okay, so when we get the funding from the state, they only consider the academic component of
Yes.
the program, but not the transportation.
yes. Mr. Hoffman, you had a question?
Mr. President, a couple of questions. Listed before, Mr. President, first of all, impressed that you still have your fastball. I'm remembering all this off the top of your head. The facilities number, the increase there, what is that, just general maintenance of the, this is for something specific?
The overall increase in facilities, it's largely driven by utilities expenses, increasing. Again, we've been talking about it here today, like the costs have gone up, so we're over budget this year in those areas, and so we built in an increase to kind of get us up to level set for this year, and then anticipating costs for next year. So that's a large part of it. We also increased in some of the maintenance areas, because what we're seeing now is our maintenance expenses, things are breaking. A lot of the old things are breaking. And so we've increased in part to add more regular maintenance to some of this stuff so that we don't wait until it breaks, that we maintain it on a more regular basis. And hopefully that eliminates, us getting caught off guard with an emergency call to a boiler replacement company or had a lot of steam pipes leak this year.
It's a good example. So from the north side of the old middle school side, we had a pipe burst. Where these buildings were designed, the pipe was under the ground, under the classroom floor. So you had to dig through the classroom floor into the wall to get to the pipe to fix it. So you can imagine that.
Yeah. So even if we take out the facilities, which proactive is much better than reactive. But even if we take that out, if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying about 2/3 of the increase is stuff we have to do no matter what by law. So if I'm looking at these numbers correctly, between medical insurance, special education, and transportation alone, 2/3 of the increase is legally required, if I'm understanding correctly, give or take.
Legally, contractually, in some cases.
Contractually, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the special ed is, the education of students, the rates we're seeing increases there. Some of it's, contractual salary increases in that special ed area. Transportation is our anticipated, what we built in was an increase based on CPI. So if there's two ways we can continue the transportation, one is we can go out to rebid our contracts, or we can renew them at CPI. These days, when we go out to rebid, we're seeing increases well in excess of CPI. So we built in CPI increase, that's built into the law. If we do renew, we renew at CPI. So CPI, we're anticipating around 5.5%, 6%, which is what we're seeing now for that. That is contractual and legal in the same sense. So,
Just as well, to remind everybody, even though we did mention it in the past, we did propose legislation to Senator Thomas for various reasons related to transportation for districts like ours to receive more aid, and then also to deal with the RFPs in which we only, miraculously get one bidder. So we did do that, and we did follow up with Senator Thomas on that.
I anticipated my next one because I knew we were working with Senator Kaminsky beforehand. I know he's not there anymore, so I was wondering where we were.
Senator Thomas, we went.
Yeah, okay. And then lastly, we talked about going out for RFPs. I just don't remember the process. If we decide to go out for RFPs again with scope, as opposed to scope, could they come back with their own RFP that's higher than before and we lose the contract? Or could you kind of keep the option and also go out for an RFP? Or they just go, no, we're just gonna raise the rates because we know it's gonna, how does that
They
work?
can, if we go out for bid, they can rebid at a higher cost.
And
That's
then
what,
you lose the old cost, and so it just goes up, not down.
Right.
And so, okay, and do we have comparisons of the rates of local areas to know if it would go up or down?
I do know from speaking to, again, I know I've said it before, I sit on the Nassau Suffolk board, and I do know from speaking to other districts that they're paying actually more than the short increase that we're paying, that we had to add into our budget. And they're finding it difficult as well, because you cannot, paying through our own teachers union and paying, our own teachers to do this, we would have to pay them significantly higher rates than what Scope is obviously paying their teachers, because obviously for what they're charging us, they can do. And the women are lovely. The girls that are teaching these classes are lovely. They're very well educated. The kids love them. I have been in the classrooms. I've spoken to Dr. Minicozy and Mr. Riemann about it. They are very happy with the program that we have. But other districts are advising me that they have some kids going to this program and some kids going to this program because they can only afford so much and they can only get so many seats at one place. Their kids are in a different situation than our kids are. Our kids are in our building. So
It sounds like lobbying more for more money is probably an optimal route versus going out for an RFP and having it increased.
right, which I can tell you was in the resolutions packet for New York State School Board. It was in the resolutions packet for Nassau Suffolk School Boards. Nassau Suffolk Executive Director was in both Albany and Washington DC, lobbying for money. I knew New York State School Boards was also up there lobbying for more money. I feel like that's all we do is beg for money, but it seems to be the way of the world these days, right? So I don't know. I think, the final answer is that if Governor Hochul is really strongly advocating for universal pre-K, which is something she says constantly, then she's got to put more money out there for it.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands raised in the virtual audience. Mr. Haikila, you have a question?
Haikila, District President, 2 students in West Hempstead. I know it was mentioned that we were trying to find out this answer, but why is our foundation aid so low? Did anybody ever get back to us on why we're only at 17% versus other?
The stock answer we got from everybody, even with follow-up conversations, was something we need to change.
Okay.
We continue to pursue that, but
So how can the district residents impact that? Or would you just send letters to our, that's it, and just get the same?
I would, if we can get
I chase them down.
Yeah. I mean, a letter
bunch of
writing,
signatures would be great,
Yeah.
honestly.
a letter writing campaign would be excellent to the legislators or the educational committee. In the end, it really has to come from the state, so the governor and state ed. But in fact, those people have a lot of power to give that information
So
to the powers
inundate
that
them
be.
with letters, not
Yeah.
emails, because I don't think anybody.
Yeah.
The pieces of paper, they see those big piles of paper.
Agreed.
And
Do we have any other questions from the audience? Okay, I do want to just remind everybody that I just feel like every year we have this same issue and it's something that we have to repeat every year. So I'm just going to say it for myself, not necessarily on behalf of the board, but it's just a reminder that those of us that are sitting up here, we also live here and we feel the impact of every increase that we put out there. It's not that we're frivolously looking to spend money. We sit up here every year and we do our best to construct a fiscally responsible budget that benefits both the entire community and maintains the programs and standards we have in our public schools. So we know nothing is perfect. We know there's always room for improvement. We also know that, yes, there are some families that choose to send their kids to private and parochial schools. But the implication that there's a mass exodus from our public schools is just simply incorrect. The decrease in students over the last few years is attributed to many factors. We're well aware of that. One being, of course, the great loss of all the students that were coming from Island Park. One being the influx of families moving in who do choose to send their children to private schools. Of course, for whatever reason, no one would fault you for that. That's your choice. Everybody has a right to send their children wherever they want to. I did it myself with my oldest child. Another being that of households whose students are aging out of the school district and there's no younger children coming in. So now we have to wait for all the babies to reach the school district age. That's where the ebbs and flows come from. I myself had 3 kids in the district. I have no children left in the district. Until my grandchild grows up and is old enough to go to the school district, there's nobody from my household. So all of a sudden you're going to have, I have none. Joe has none. Every year it's somebody else's house, 3, 5, 10 kids on one block that graduate and there's no more kids in the district. So I think that's something we have to remember. So soon we'll have the younger families that are going to begin filling our hallways, whether it's UPK or kindergarten. It's necessary to look at all the factors and all the information that's available to you. You know, we've been discussing cost per pupil, but cost per pupil is not simply taking the budget and dividing it by the amount of kids in the public schools. Mr. Press talked about the fact that there is at least 18% of our budget every year going to outside services, which is whether it's outside district transportation, health services, special ed services, textbooks, students attending charter schools. There's no hiding that fact. So if you're going to look at cost per pupil, see, all right, somebody want to check on your health. If somebody wants to look on cost per pupil, please remember to take that 20% out, and then you can go ahead and divide that. It's approximately $10,000 less than the number I've been hearing being thrown around. I personally am not, nor do I claim to be a wealthy household. I feel the increase of the impact of every single increase we put in, not only in the school budget, but in the electric bill, in the fire district budget, in my regular general taxes. However, if I took my savings account, and we've discussed this, and depleted it to pay down my mortgage, as many have suggested we do with the reserves, I would certainly be struggling to pay moving forward as all the costs continue to rise. I know it's hard to understand that effect, but I think I tried to explain it earlier when I was talking about the 9% budget that many of us lived through back about 12 or 13 years ago. Going backward is not something that would be responsible on our behalf. We continue to research and look at ways we can lower spending with different initiatives. You're okay. And we will continue to do so at this time. But at this time, we're not in a position to decrease the levy without feeling the impact in the next year's budget. And personally, myself, I do not find that responsible to put that on somebody else next year. I thank you for listening to my thoughts, but I want to leave you with this. I don't know how many of you are actually looking at how many people are on the virtual audience. I think it says about 20 and about 4 of them are in this room. There's approximately 5 community members in this room. 6, I see you back there, Mr. Young. There's over 10,000 registered voters in this district, and we got 26 people in this room right now. A lot of the people on the virtual audience are actually either administrators or educators in the district. So if we want to talk about it, it's maybe 14 people. And it's the complacency of the voters in West Hempstead that is going to cause this to be a problem. We need to educate everybody in the district. We need to make sure that everybody is aware and make sure that everybody knows that each vote is important. All we ask of you is to be educated, not to take for granted any information that is being spoken on the sidewalk, on the playground, or at baseball without finding out for yourself. Mr. Press, Mr. Reaman, and the board are always willing to answer any questions and meet with anybody who wants to ask. Everyone has a right to how they vote, of course, and we all agree with that, but please be informed as to what you're voting on. So with that, I want to say thank you. I hope you guys all had a happy holiday. And I need a motion to adjourn to go into executive session to discuss negotiation.
Motion to adjourn. We're still having that.
Oh, I'm still having a happy holiday. I'm sorry. I need a motion to adjourn. You did, Bert?
And I second.
Bert, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, then.